This event unfolded precisely at 3 o'clock a.m. local time on August 29, 2025. The Russian S-400 Triumph air defense system in Jankoi commenced its new duty cycle with a 91N6E radar starting its deadly rotations. Pulses of electromagnetic waves were emitted, cutting through the Crimean night sky. The entire crew on duty was confident they were manning one of the globe's most formidable air defense rings. They were completely unaware that the remaining lifespan of their $500 million radar station was now only minutes. Meanwhile, nearly 155 miles from Jankoi, deep within a forest east of Mykolaiv, a camouflaged commerce truck extended its hydraulic hatch, hidden under the foliage. This concealed a weapon never before revealed, a Flamingo cruise missile, a product of Firepoint Industries. This ultra-low flying dagger was extremely difficult for ground-based radar to detect. With a warhead weighing over 2,200 pounds and a range of up to 1,850 miles, Flamingo was designed to strike deep inside enemy territory, punching through radar systems, ammunition depots, and command posts. Its target was the precise location of the 91 North 6 East radar from an S-400 battery situated southeast of Jankoi near a railway junction. This specific radar was once responsible for coordinating fire control for at least 3 S-400 systems that protected the skies over Crimea. The estimated value of the system was close to $500 million, but its strategic role was far more crucial. The 91 North 6 East was essentially the eye of the sky for all northern Crimean airspace. It possessed the capability to guide up to 80 surface-to-air missiles at once, track 300 objects simultaneously, and detect targets out to 370 miles. Disrupting this radar would create a blind zone over 95 miles wide in Russia's air defense network, thus clearing the path for subsequent operations. This target had been pursued for a considerable time. For 48 hours prior, Ukrainian electronic reconnaissance units had been silently tracking the radar's emissions, the 91N6E's operational frequency signature. Every radio pulse cycle and signal was recorded. All this was accomplished using a single loitering UAV, a Beaver-class kamikaze drone launched by Ukraine earlier. Weighing just over 110 pounds, the drone flew barely 330 feet above the treetops, utilizing inertial terrain navigation algorithms. It slipped past the Pavlik K-1 radar line undetected, much like a nocturnal predator. Mounted on its body were 3 mission-critical components: a wideband data link antenna, a passive signal receiver, and a FLIR electro-optical infrared camera. Beneath the lightweight composite shell, a cold onboard processor continuously scanned the electromagnetic spectrum, looking for one telltale sign: the C-band pulse of the 91 North 6 East Gravestone radar. Then, exactly at 3:07 a.m., the operator's screen flashed. A sharp signal wave appeared: C-band active continuous pulse. The Beaver's internal reference map immediately highlighted a hotspot 8 miles southeast of Jankoi, nestled between 2 low shrub clusters. This was an exact match with the satellite reconnaissance image captured a week earlier. The target was confirmed. The 91 North 6 East radar was transmitting at full range. Immediately, at a hidden position near Mykolaiv, the Flamingo strike team leader gripped his headset and issued a firm command: begin target lock sequence. Engineers input the encrypted coordinates that had been relayed from the Bayer UAV. The confirmation illuminated. Flamingo was now prepared, awaiting only the launch command. However, tonight, it would not fly alone. Once launched, Flamingo would need 11 minutes to reach its target. This was more than enough time for enemy radar to detect and intercept it if it wasn't distracted. It required a decoy, a sacrificial bait, a shield, and Ukraine had planned for precisely that. Earlier, at 2:59 minutes and 50 seconds a.m., On the Kherson front line, a Ram-2 decoy UAV had silently launched from a mobile rotating launcher. The drone maintained an altitude of 6,560 feet, cruising along Crimea's western coastline like a civilian aircraft until it suddenly veered 70, diving straight toward northern Jankoy, the exact location of the S-400 radar post. Its flight path was deliberately obvious, and its radar signature was bright. All of this was designed to capture the attention of the 91N6E radar crew, making them believe this was the Ukrainian cruise missile. At 3:10 minutes and 50 seconds a.m., the launch order was transmitted. A short beep sounded. The hydraulic lift pushed the 20-feet missile smoothly out of its launch cradle, tilting it to a 30 angle, the optimal trajectory for a low-altitude cruise. Mere seconds later, Flamingo detached. There was no roar, just a thin, cold trail of smoke twisting southward across Crimea. One of the boldest precision strikes of 2025 had just begun. Meanwhile, in the skies west of Crimea, the Ram-2 decoy completed its final turn. Now, just 25 miles from the radar site, it entered Russia's air defense coverage zone. As anticipated, it was picked up by a Panzer S-1 system, which switched to target lock mode. 17 seconds later, a 57E6 interceptor missile launched, pursuing and destroying the Ram-2 in midair. But the mission was already a success. The lock-on frequency, every radar signal, reaction time, and firing vector was extracted, encrypted, and transmitted back to command. That data was instantly uploaded into Flamingo's digital guidance map, but that wasn't all. No zones, GPS jamming zones, 3D terrain overlays, and turn points were all fed directly in real time through an encrypted link from a tactical UAV relay. This ensured Flamingo could bypass every newly activated threat zone before entering its final strike phase. At this juncture, Flamingo had already covered the first 25 miles in total silence. It flew at just 165 feet lower than the scanning envelope of most ground radars, with terrain following precision down to the meter, minimizing the probability of detection. Every second, Flamingo executed over 3,000 navigation calculations, constantly cross-checking the actual terrain against the 3D map preloaded from the Beaver UAV. It was an 11-minute game of life and death, where being picked up by radar, a single mistake, or drifting off course due to terrain irregularities or interference from a Pole 21 jammer would result in mission failure. Exactly at 3:13 a.m., GPS signals were interrupted for the first time. Within only 12 seconds, satellite navigation was completely jammed by interference stations from the Crimean Peninsula. Distorted frequency waves flooded the control screen. However, this had all been anticipated. Flamingo instantly switched to inertial navigation system, INS mode, relying on terrain matching algorithms and fiber optic gyroscopes, maintaining the positional accuracy within 100 feet for the duration of the flight. Concurrently, it activated its frequency hopping protocol, continuously switching return signal probing modes, both to evade passive radar detection and to mislead active air defense systems scanning the area. On the ground, Russian passive radar teams initiated spectrum scans, but each electromagnetic reflection from Flamingo persisted for less than 0.5 seconds. For several minutes, Russia's air defense and radar networks were thrown into disarray. No one could identify the target. More importantly, no one dared to fire. On the Ukrainian command screen, blinking waves faded one after another. Flamingo had cleared the first kill zone. It then proceeded along the eastern flank of Lake Savash, a saltwater, sparsely populated area where terrain radars are notoriously ineffective. The missile maintained a steady velocity of 515 miles per hour at an average altitude of 150 feet. From above, Flamingo's path resembled a razor slicing through the final gap in Russia's layered air defense shield. Ahead, less than 15 miles away, lay the active zone of at least two S-400 PMU batteries. One was stationed near Northern Army, and the other covered the southern shore of Lake Savage. Together, they constituted the medium-range tier of Russia's multi-layered defense in northern Crimea. At that moment, the 30N6E fire control radars for the S-400 PMU systems were in standby track mode, conserving energy by remaining passive. Instead, the 36D6 search radar managed early detection. The 30N6E would only be activated for missile guidance and target acquisition if a target appeared. But this defensive posture had a fatal flaw. The S-400 system was optimized for medium to high altitude threats, high cruising cruise missiles, ballistic missiles, or aircraft. Flamingo, meanwhile, was flying at just 165 feet, skimming the flat surface of Lake Savage, an area with minimal radar clutter and low reflectivity. The 36D6 radar waves were easily scattered by the low brush, shallow waters, or sand dunes along the lake, rendering a small target like Flamingo nearly invisible. Its signal was blurred, barely discernible on the operator's screen. By utilizing ultra-low altitude, active jamming countermeasures, and a weaving trajectory, Flamingo fully exploited this blind spot in the network, slipping past the S-300's engagement envelope without leaving any clear radar return. At 3:17 minutes and 20 seconds a.m., Flamingo had now traveled more than 105 miles. Ahead stood a dense interference wall, the outer zone of the Kalanka farmland area, where Ukrainian intelligence had located at least one mobile RB-341V Lear-3 jamming truck and an R-33 OZ-2PS suppression system. The moment satellite signal strength dropped below -130 decibels per milliwatt, Flamingo automatically severed its GPS connection, locked the digitized terrain mode, and shifted entirely to INS combined with auto-terrain recognition. This was an onboard algorithm utilizing an integrated mini-radar altimeter for terrain mapping. For the next 30 seconds, Flamingo hugged the farm terrain, tracing stream beds and irrigation ditches, skimming crop rows, dodging all residential zones, greenhouses, or large metal storage sheds. These objects, though inanimate, presented lethal reflection angles that could expose it to ground radar or thermal optical sensors on board Russian drones. At 3:18 minutes and 12 seconds a.m., at the Russian Air Defense Command Center in Jankoy, a weak interference signal flickered to the southwest. An alert sounded, but the blip vanished after 2 seconds, too brief to create a tracking line. The weather that night brought high humidity and low fog, scattering radar signals, ideal conditions for low-flying cruise missiles. On the Ukrainian side, the Beaver drone team continued scanning for any change in the 91N6E radar's pulse frequency, but everything remained silent. No one in the Russian command knew the missile was now less than 30 miles from them. At 3:20 minutes and 45 seconds a.m., Flamingo entered the final phase of its mission, the most densely defended zone around Jankoy, where Russian radars, reconnaissance UAVs, and Pantsir systems converged. Up ahead lay a single-layered defense belt, a Nebo-M early warning radar site 4.5 miles away, one Pantsir S-1 battery stationed along a drainage canal, and finally the 91N6E fire control radar, the ultimate target and the heart of the S-400 system tonight. The missile dropped its altitude to just 100 feet, hugging a narrow water channel. It completely shut down its onboard radar, entering full stealth mode. Only its INS system, driven by fiber optic gyros and preloaded 3D terrain maps, maintained its trajectory. From this point onward, there would be no human intervention. Either Flamingo would complete its mission, or it would be destroyed deep behind enemy lines. At 3:21 minutes and 35 seconds a.m., on the Ukrainian reconnaissance UAV's infrared feed, a 91N6E radar suddenly switched to full track mode, indicating it had just detected a suspicious target from the southwest. But it was already too late. Flamingo was now only 3.5 miles from impact. No air defense system had time to respond. 15 minutes earlier, the Pantsir battery had already fired its lone interceptor at the decoy UAV. The S-400 radars were angled skyward, incapable of dipping into ultra-low altitudes. The 91N6E had only just picked up the return echo, far too late to relay coordinates to the 5P-85T2 launch vehicle. At 3:21 minutes and 49 seconds a.m., Flamingo accelerated. Its turbojet engine surged to full thrust, boosting its speed to 530 miles per hour. It tore across farmland, sliced through windbreak trees, punched through barbed wire fencing, and then 2 seconds later, a blinding fireball erupted over the John Coy night. The white flash persisted for nearly 3 seconds before a rising mushroom cloud curled skyward. A deafening blast shattered the darkness. Its shock wave echoed across a 6.2-mile radius. The concussive wave shattered windows in dozens of nearby homes. Reconnaissance drones captured the aftermath. The 91N6E radar vehicle was obliterated, its antenna mast collapsed, and flames were spreading to the command unit and power generator truck. There was no return fire, no response from any remaining missile systems. Just 3 minutes after the explosion, NATO infrared sensors passing over the Crimean Peninsula registered an anomalous heat bloom. Satellite analysis from Sentinel's 3 to 5 micron band confirmed a thermal spike reached 1,100 degrees Celsius, 2,012 degrees Fahrenheit, lasting over 14 minutes. The burn radius extended 75 feet, with 2 hotspots flaring above 20 feet high, consistent with microelectronic combustion and diesel fuel. No interceptor launches or counter-battery were observed. To Western defense analysts, there was only one conclusion. Russia's 91N6E radar had been completely eliminated. Estimated at $110 million, this radar was the crown jewel of the $500 million S-400 Triumph battery deployed to protect Crimea since 2017. The 91N6E was not merely the eye of the S-400, it coordinated tracking and target data for the Panzer S-1, S-300, PMU-2, Buk M2, and the Central Crimea Electronic Warfare Network. With this radar neutralized, Central Crimea, from Perekop to Kronar de Isa, was plunged into a temporary radar blind zone stretching 93 miles north to south. Key targets such as the Jankoy Air Base home to Ka-52 attack helicopters, Kalanka Fuel Depot, and Iskander-M artillery staging areas temporarily lost their long-range warning coverage. This afforded Ukrainian UAV attack swarms, or Su-24 strikes, a significantly higher penetration chance for the next 48 to 72 hours. In the first 12 hours after the strike, Russia's Ministry of Defense issued no official statement. However, semi-official telegram channels like Ribber, Two Majors, and Vonner Koteno began posting alerts about unusual activity in the John Coy region. Local residents reported a massive explosion in the night and said several military vehicles were being blocked from approaching the area. Operation Flamingo was a case study in modern asymmetric warfare. It demonstrated a scenario where a nation with inferior air power could still rupture the world's most advanced air defense grid using a domestically built cruise missile modified from Kh-55 technology. From this moment on, every S-400 radar site must confront one question. Is there another Flamingo watching us just 11 minutes away?